Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, and welcome to TFYLP episode 380 for, what day is it? Monday, May 11th. So tonight I am joined by Paul.
Yo.
And Christian.
What's up?
And then we have a special guest this week. We've got Nick.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Nick. So the
Dr.
topic, the topic tonight, we're talking about completionism, what that means to each of us, and we thought there would be a perfect person to talk about this, which is Nick, because Nick is a little different in his collecting habits than other people in the community, that he buys a lot of Transformers stuff. So I guess, Nick, I don't know if you want to start off and just tell us what do you collect with Transformers?
I collect absolutely anything with the word Transformers on it. Although I do have some rules that I've established over the years to keep me from buying duplicates needlessly. But pretty much anything that gets branded Transformers that's made in the US, I buy. And then in terms of Japanese stuff, if it's different, I'll pick that up too. Yes, Christian?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I wrote the word Transformers on a piece of paper, would you then buy that from me?
I don't know. What are you asking for it? No, seriously, it would have to be a licensed product. I actually don't do a lot of third-party stuff. I mostly stick to official, unless the third-party add-on is a special thing for the figure and it makes it better. Then I'll do third-party stuff. But for the most part, I stick to official things. Keeps me from spending way too much money.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're probably better off by doing that, just because, third party is such an expensive rabbit hole.
Sure. As there's, some great stuff out there, but I can't do it all. I try to do it all, but not, well, you know what I mean. So.
Aren't you number 5 in the world now or something?
Well, of people who are playing the catalog game over on schmacks.com, I think it's number 5. Yeah. That's
nice.
My database is up to something like, 6,000 line items, not including G1. And then comics has got to be somewhere in the, over 2,000 neighborhood. So it's a lot of stuff.
So you're just toys, comics, and etc. stuff?
Yeah. Every single action figure, every single comic book, every single cover of every single comic book. And then merchandise, random merchandise. I used to say that the wackiest thing I bought was a Light Bright that said Transformers on the box but had no Transformers imagery. You had to open it for the Transformers pack inside. But I bought way weirder stuff since then. That was, 15 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. It was Energon, I think that was from.
So how many people do you think would be at your level aren't even involved on that Schmacks website?
I got to figure there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 50 people who are as nuts as I am. I mean, realistically, because, you're not just talking United States, you're looking at the whole world, and you're looking at the guys who know better than to put their stuff online because they don't want that kind of attention, But we're all the same guys who are laughing at that Guinness Book of Records guy. But you got to be in it to win it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that guy doesn't count.
That's the thing that's always funny, is every time, because that comes up once a year or so, that they're what's the Guinness Book of World Records thing again? I can't remember what the...
It wasn't 1,200 robots or something, 1,500 robots,
There's 2 people who tried to do it in the past couple of years, and they're both around that size.
But is it official, or is it just people that are I'm trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records? Because I can't imagine they would actually recognize that, considering,
There was one dude here in the States, I think he's somewhere out west, that did actually apply to get the record. I don't know if he got it or not, but he was involved in the Facebook groups for a while. until he got laughed out of there. That's probably not the best introduction to the fandom he could have gotten, but it is what it is. And
Well,
there's
that's what you
one
get.
guy in the UK, that's the one that comes out around springtime every year, where he's like the biggest collection in the UK or something. And he does that one through news outlets, I believe. So it's two different processes.
Well, I think, again, like, no one is really judging anyone else on the size of their collections. It's just the people that come out and say, I have the most Transformers in the world. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I have 1,200. And, all these other people are like, oh, well, I had those. I had that many, 20, 30 years ago. So
Chump change.
Right.
I mean, I feel like the people that really do the massive Uber collecting do not care about being the biggest or the best. They know why they're doing it. They're doing it for them. But it's when some piddly person comes in and starts like swinging around parts of their body, like, hey, it's me. that's when like the super collectors are triggered into like action. Like, oh, you think that, like, that's cute that you think that's special or important because we did that 15 years ago.
Right.
So
I mean, I think that
you got to poke the bear to get that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most of the people that I've met that are like that are the super collectors are not ones that are doing it to show off. Like I can think of one or two people like that, but like most of them are just ones that are almost kind of like, oh yeah, like I've got this thing, but it's really almost more, and like kind of what I wanted to delve in today is like, why do we have that mentality? Like, is it from the time that we were kids where that they came out with the checklist for our toys and you got to check the box in order to say you got it, kind of thing? Is that kind of where it came from, or is it just like, are we ingrained as collectors? Like, what exactly is it that drives us to be a completionist?
Yeah, Nick, why are you the way you are? Why are you like
Boy,
this?
the amount of therapy that would cost me. No, but seriously. Yeah, I mean, the checklists on the back of the boxes were always the best part to me, because it was like, I used to have the little card back from G.I. Joe, and I'd cross them out as I'd get them, And it wasn't just Transformers when I was a kid. I had the entirety of Superpowers except for Cyborg. I had the entirety of He-Man except for Ninjor, and then Buzzsaw Hordak. And then I found out later on that Laser Light Skeletor and He-Man existed, and I found out that the Spin guys, whatever, Rotar and Twistoid or whatever, some other stuff. So I was always, got to get the whole set. And I don't know where the disconnect in my brain comes from that I need to have it all, but I always need to have it all. I'm very all or nothing with everything I do, and it really comes out in the collecting and all this nonsense that I pick up. Why am I the way I am? Brain damage. It's the short answer.
Yeah. Well, and so my question for you and your collecting, because like I was telling Christian about this myself, that like I don't necessarily know that like I have a checklist that I'm filling out and saying I have to have them all. It's just that I've set myself certain parameters of my collection, and I will continue to look for items and purchase items until I have them all. So it's not like I'm like, oh, thank God, like, now 150 of 150 complete, whatever. It's just that when I'm online, on eBay, like at a convention, whatever, that I have like, well, I have this stuff, and then like I go by someone's booth and, oh, hey, I need that, like, whatever, I make a deal with them and buy it and whatever. So it's not necessarily that I like am trying to get it all. It's just that, oh, hey, Transformers, cool, like I want a new robot. Like, I mean, what would you say you're kind of like that, or would you say that you're definitely like, I have my checklist and I go on eBay for the 10 items I'm trying to do to complete, whatever, my G1 collection?
I'm sort of a thrift buyer, so like if I see a thing that's the right price that I need, I'll buy it, and that's probably my guiding. If it isn't brand new product, if I'm buying old stuff, it's like, oh, that's a thing I know I need and it's a good price, I'm going to buy it. And if at some point I run out of the cheap things I can buy, well, all right, then I'll start looking for the more expensive stuff. But right now, my criteria is so massive. There's plenty on that list that I can buy any show I go to, you know. But I will say that it scratches a very particular itch in my brain when I'm able to finally finish a section of a checklist. Like, oh, cool, now I've got all of device label. That's one less thing. It's huge, that satisfaction that I get from being able to finish that list. So, you know.
But wouldn't it be a sad day when you finally checked off all the boxes?
No. No, it wouldn't.
I don't know.
It would be the best day.
Well, what would you do after that?
Finally display it. That's when I would start buying shelves and display cases and making everything nice and pretty and setting it up the way I want. Because right now it's, hashtag bin life.
because you can't make a display because you're not going to leave gaps for stuff. You're going to fill the space, and then you'd have to rearrange it all once you got that one thing, right?
It's a little of that, and it's a little bit that, displays cost money. Money for more toys. Gotta keep buying. Feed the beast.
So for me, that actually is the same beast. I started keeping track of my expenses I spent on the collection this year. And so, yeah, it's toys, but I also bought a whole bunch of shelves for my BotBots earlier this year. That went on the expense report. I bought a case of hydrogen peroxide to do some whitening last week. That went on the expense report. So for me, it's all the same, but it's interesting to see that yours is not the same.
I mean, I'm keeping track of what I'm spending, too, and I don't want to think about that number last year. It was probably a big number.
So your completionism is all-encompassing, and you mentioned that it scratches that particular itch in your head.
Yeah.
For me, I know what that itch is, but my completionism is very much more focused than yours, because I don't need everything.
Right.
Even though, like right now with Generations, I can probably be within 10 figures to complete every line from Thrilling 30 up to the present.
Wow.
But I'm not trying to complete those. I've never been trying to complete those. I've been cherry picking them. I just pick a lot of cherries. But the ones I am, I've completed 2 lines, and I'm aiming to complete 2 more.
Sure.
The ones I've completed are alternators and power core combiners. And I did those because those were so vastly different from anything else we've ever had. And they were kind of turning points on the brand, and I thought they were unique, and I just wanted to support the whole thing and have them all. I'm also branching out into the Vinyltech recolors that we didn't get here as alternators and United EX for power core combiners.
Right, sure.
I'm also building towards a complete BotBots collection because same reason. And then I'm building towards a complete Cybertron collection because that's the line that carried me from a kid into a collector. And it seems like such a high point of build quality and paint and gimmicks. And it's a really solid line I'd like to have all of.
Yeah. There was some good stuff in Cybertron. I did enjoy that quite a lot.
Well, one of the things I think is interesting about all of this is I feel like eventually in your Transformers collecting, you get to the point where you start becoming a seller. And so I think all of us in one way or another, sell, transfer, because you find a better version of, so say even if you don't want to sell any of your collection, you get to the point where you're like, oh, that one's an upgrade. Like that one's in nicer condition. I'm going to go ahead and sell my other one, and I'm going to go buy the, whatever this other one, or you find as you're, like you said, that you like to be a thrift store buyer, that if you see a good deal on some stuff, you're like, oh, I can flip that. I already have it, but might as well do that. So I kind of feel like I'm sure as people are listening to this episode or watching the episode, they're like, oh God, that you could be doing better things with your money kind of thing. But I feel like we at least try to find a way to support ourselves and not make it so that, just want to stress, this is all for us, discretionary income. We're not in the poorhouse because of doing this. And I would not suggest anyone to, go beyond their means to collect robots. So just to get that, out there for everyone. So
Yes, don't do that. Yeah, learn that the hard way. That was so funny story. There was a moment when I was collecting comic books also, and I was heavily into Spider-Man back issues, like Silver Age and X-Men back issues, and it was before they got super duper expensive, when they were just starting to pick up in heat, and so they were a little pricier. And I had that one moment where I was going to buy an Amazing Spider-Man #1, and it walked into the shop I was working in at the time, and I think it was $15K, and I spent, I don't know, the better part of a weekend trying to figure out, all right, how can I do that? How can I make that happen? How can I come up with the funds? I couldn't make it go. So instead, over the course of the next, I don't know, year and a half, I blew something like 10 grand on a credit card just buying robots. So yeah, don't do that, because it's stupid, and you'll pay for it for a long time.
Yeah.
So are you saying that was related?
Yeah, because
events?
I was so thrilled that I didn't spend 15 grand on the Spider-Man.
Oh.
I went out and spent that money on robots because I'm really dumb. So don't do that.
If you had I don't know much about comics. I just wonder, like, if you had bought that Spider-Man, like, what would it be worth today?
I have stopped looking at the back issue market. I'm not as in it as I was.
Is it? I mean, I just wonder. Is that like a well-known, like, is that like a benchmark piece? In the
Amazing Spider-Man #1's a big friggin' deal. Let's go to the videotape here.
I'm just wondering, like, is it worth twice as much as that now, or is it like 100 grand or something? Like, some of these things accelerate quite quicker than you are aware of. I don't know.
And I think that's the tough thing when you talk about completionism in general is like getting those last pieces, because it's not hard to pick up and hey, like, I'm going to get this from the show, I'm going to get that or whatever. It is hard sometimes to get some of those last pieces. And I've kind of gotten to that point with, so I was like collecting G2, and I got all that, or at least G2 loose. And I got to the point where I started collecting the European variants of it. And so now I'm to the point where I've got most of that. And then I have, again, like, all this stuff is going up. And I know Anna and Rob have all talked about that. Some of these, like, Rock Lords or whatever, where, it's like, oh, I've got this stupid $10 Rock Lord. I get a garage sale or whatever, and then somehow you're blowing, I don't know what Rob spent on that Dino, what's the Dino Rock Lord one that he had on Ouch or whatever,
Fossilsaurus.
Fossilsaurus, thank you.
Stupid Saurus.
I'll be right back.
Sorry, I didn't know that question was going
to crazy number on it.
I think it was like $300 or something. He doesn't make bad financial decisions as far as even with toys. Sorry, I didn't know Nick. I didn't know that question was going to cause Nick to go into a spiral of needing to answer it, or I wouldn't have asked it.
So, Paul, you have a different kind of completionism, right?
I thought I had.
That we talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of. I'm quite a. When most people think about completionism, they think of, like, everything. You're trying to get everything. But, like, completionists can be sort of like a style of collecting without actually getting everything. So, like, I chose alternators at one point to be completionist on alternators. Like, that doesn't go beyond, like, what you were describing. You know, and I'm going to try to tie that to what Lucas was saying about the last few pieces. Yeah, alternators. Okay, cool, fun. Not a lot of people like those anymore because Masterpiece exists, and those are kind of like retro and old. So they should be pretty cheap, right, to get? Christian, shouldn't they? In general?
Reasonably so. They were up for a while. They're kind of down now.
You get there, you get there and you start looking, and you see those pieces that are expensive, and you're like, ooh, never. I'll get to that point. So you continue to buy a lot of the. You could buy one really hard to find piece, or you could buy like 20 of the not so hard to find pieces. So most people aim for the not hard to find pieces, but then those all get, you fill all those gaps pretty quick. The easy stuff is, like, easier than you think, and then the harder stuff is way harder than you think. And by the time you've collected all those easy things and you're still into it, other people have gotten into it too and have started that process. And so that thing you weren't willing to buy at the beginning of your journey is now even more expensive at that point. And you're like, oh, I should have bought it then. What was I thinking? and that's a leapfrog effect. And it continues to happen over and over, unless all the people that are trying to look for that stuff just jump out of the market. And that does happen here and there. I mean, you just have to be diligent and be looking for stuff. But like, where are you going to find Vinyltech Black Convoy? Like, that is not a fun piece to track down. I know that's not an alternator. So again, like, you got to, where's your
Luckily,
completionist?
he's not on my list.
All right. Well, you should be.
Yes, understandably, yes. That is an incredibly hard piece to track down.
That's the of alternator toys. That's the one at the top. That's the pinnacle. That's the grail of that type of collection. But
see, now I'm able to skip that piece because I got the San Diego Nemesis Prime. So same thing in my book.
Oh my God, they are so not the same. They are like, it's not even the same toy in different packaging, Nick. These are like incredibly different toys. One's made of metal.
I mean, that's the thing where
that's even better.
Like, I know with my generation's collecting, like, I tried to say, like, that does not include Fun Pub stuff, like, because I don't want to deal with that.
Weak sauce.
Hey, you know what? Like, I'm sorry. I just that's a line in the sand. Like, I know that stuff was way too expensive. I wasn't there back in the day and all that. I don't want, at that point. I mean, it gets, the Fun Pub stuff gets pretty expensive, and the same with some of the Japanese stuff. That a lot of that Takara stuff, it's just like, once it's gone, it's gone. Like, it is really hard to track down some of that stuff, like, after the fact.
Oh,
that's the real trick with the completionism bit, is staying current on top of it. Because if you miss anything, you're going to pay more for it later, and I'd rather pay retail.
The price of snoozing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. The price is you only paid a few times before you never go to bed.
Never again.
Paul, what I actually meant for you is that you collect like every version of certain characters, right?
Yeah, but I also, I have lots of little collections that I do not really bring to the forefront. But like, I have collected mainline toys, mint and sealed box, everything of the U.S. lines since animated, and the reason was because I was chasing a dragon, which was, this is gonna be like the line, this is gonna be Transformers going forward, it was gonna be classics, and I was like, and then now there's this thing called animated, so it's gonna be animated, and then that quit, and then it was like, okay, well, I guess it's gonna be Prime because the movie's out, and this looks like the movie, so this is gonna be our Clone Wars, this is gonna be like what we live off of for like 8 years, right? Nope, 3 years, done. Now there's no cartoon. It's all kiddie stuff. It's basically gone back to classics, generation stuff. And I've actually been going through the process of, I've actually sold a lot of my complete animated collection and some of my Prime. Mm-hmm. And it's been it was always kind of the intention, but I still have every single classics toy that ever existed. So mint and sealed box, like, Kate Dead Mint, awesome, Mm-hmm. And that takes
Velcro flaps.
What?
I missed those Velcro flaps on the packaging.
Yeah. So there's completionism in there, and it's like mint and sealed box, so it's like two perfect storms meeting together for a disaster, But I'm also the same way with Masterpiece toys, Japanese and U.S. So all those things add up to almost be like you're collecting literally everything, dude. What are you talking about? But I don't really go for like, I don't get the Japanese lines like complete or anything. That's, then there's the character collecting, which is like basically loose toys. Those are the ones I open anymore.
Tell us a little bit more that's different from what we've talked about before. It's very interesting to me.
Sorry, you're cutting out on me really bad. So.
Sorry. I just want to hear more about character collecting.
Okay.
Like, why do you do it? Who do you collect? And what's that about? It's different from what we've talked about before.
Why do I do it? Okay, so it allows me to avoid a lot of stuff. I don't like. I don't like inherently my worldview is that once you open the toy, it's worth less. Okay, so whether you agree with it or not, whatever, it just fits into my crazy worldview, and I don't want to open toys I don't want to play with, and I know shelf space is limited, so I decided I liked the way displays looked when they were more homogeneous looking, like color essentially most of the time, so like all the bumblebees are yellow mostly. Now there's like black ones and crazy blue ones and stuff, but those little highlights of color actually really make the collection more interesting when it all is a sea of yellow. There's like, oh, there's a blue one and there's a silver one, and it like draws attention in a different way. Aesthetically, I like the way it looks.
You do have some pretty shelves.
when I have them set up, they look okay. But then it stopped me from like, it's like, yeah, I'd love to see the new Hound toy, but after I can go over to a friend's place and like check it out and fill with it, and that's like I got what I need out of it. It's like I've been able to kind of like curb my needs from the Transformer brand in that way. So it's like instead I'm like super psycho. It's like any Starscream I gotta get, but it's just Starscream. So it's like I don't have to get every bulkhead or I'm trying to pick characters I don't collect, so like RC or something, I think that's a decent. I think that explains it kind of. At least it's one answer. Yeah. It's basically like compartmentalizing the mania of needing to get everything. I'm only playing Pokemon some of the time.
The question is I'm wondering, like, because Anna in the chat had mentioned about the rules are helpful not to go too far. But are there times where the rules almost go against you? And, like, I feel like with completionism, because, like, for me, for example, like, all of the Combiner Wars trilogy, like, I've gotten all of that and Power of the Primes, right? And so I get, and I'm sure, Paul, you probably feel differently about this figure, but I am not a fan of this the Power of the Prime Starscream, right? I would not have purchased this if I was not in it to win it. And so, but I felt this compulsion that I'm like, well, if I don't buy this, then I won't have all the Power of the Primes figures, and then I'll be one short, and and so I probably should have kept this thing just mint and sealed box, and I would have felt better about it. But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like that's the thing is that by being a completionist, there's like certain things, but I can't bring myself to sell this because then I'll be one short. If that makes sense. Yeah. But I do not like this figure, and we've gotten 99% of the mainline Transformers I enjoy and I like and all that. Like, I like the other Starscreams I've gotten, but this particular one, if I had my choice, I almost wish it had not been created so that I don't have to have.
You sound like me with about 80% of the movie figures.
Well, then get rid of it, Lucas.
Never.
I mean,
I can't.
I'll tell you what.
I can't.
When I sold that first animated toy out of my mint and sealed box bin, and I really didn't want to do that because they look so pretty, all of them together with the artwork and everything. I sold a mint and sealed box Blur for $100 at BotCon 2015 because it was like the guy wanted to AFA it. He was a psychopath. He wouldn't. He was like, "Be careful how you touch it." And I was like, I almost wanted to lick it just to be like, "You sure you still want to buy this, bro?" But once I sold that first one, it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're selling them all, it's not complete anymore. I don't care. It's like, let me just maximize the value of what I had in a bin here for 10 years. And it didn't hurt. Like, it still doesn't. So you can run over that Starscream with a car and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Nick, you already have it. Don't worry about it.
And if you really want it back, I got 20 of them in my garage for a custom. That I can help you replace it. I got them off Amazon for $6 a piece, so we're good.
It's interesting you bring up the. Sorry.
You go ahead, Nick.
I said it's interesting you bring up the slippery slope of selling stuff there, because that's sort of my hard line in the sand. Like, if I sell stuff, I won't stop. That'll just be it. I will just dump it all at some point. And like, I don't want to do that. I want to have the stuff buried with me.
Don't do that.
Oh yeah. We're going ancient Egyptian tomb here. It's gonna be,
Dude,
one big robot sarcophagus. It's gonna be great.
There's gonna be like latitude and longitude marks hidden on the TF wiki of your grave. The treasure that
it's
no
been
one
my
can
ruling
find.
philosophy for so long. He who dies with the most toys wins, buddy. That's it.
I just don't get that. Not the dying with toys thing, but the selling a little, gonna sell it all thing. Like, I don't understand that.
I said
I've
it
never
earlier,
been that
all
way.
or nothing. All or nothing. It's just how my brain is.
I don't know,
I
but
really have an all or nothing view of a lot of things, but collecting toys is not one of them, oddly enough.
see, I don't know. I've been the same way, and like, I mean, you've seen me over the last like few years, Christian, to where like I go through these waves where it's like, I sold everything or all my masterpiece or whatever, and then I'm like, whatever, 6 months later, like, oh, I bought all the masterpiece back. Like, I don't
That's
know.
true.
I'm kinda
I
the
can't
same
confirm
way.
that happens.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is, because I regret it, and then I like go and buy it all back, and I don't know. I mean, that's, but I feel like I just am like tortured that like I have a limited amount of space and funds and whatever, and so that's where I want to like try to sell something to make my budget be better, I guess I should say, for collecting Transformers or something else. But then I get, I regret it down the road. So
You and I have gone on very similar journeys with Masterpiece because we both stopped collecting at the same time. And I sold off a few. Nick probably got most of them that I sold off.
Yeah.
But mostly what I did was just stop getting more. I still have what I have for the most part. And over time, I'm sure it'll be less and less and fewer and fewer. It's but I didn't have that need to be like, all right, I've stopped collecting this one. Now it needs to get out of my house. I never had that.
oh no, I'm exactly like, I'm like, if I'm not collecting it anymore, like, it's dead to me. I just need to get rid of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there is one more type of completion that I'd like to talk about that Serge and I have done, and we've talked about it. And I don't see a lot of other people doing it. We've been calling it mold completing. So like every time a mold is released, you have to get that mold. And I've done it 3 times. They're all Optimus Primes. The first time I did it was with the Classics Optimus Prime mold. I had every release except Lucky Draw. I don't ever count Lucky Draws because those are,
Come on.
you're never going to get them.
They
So
count.
I had, at one point, I had all the classic Optimus Primes, and it was cool to have them together. And then I was like, all right, I've done this. I sold a couple, kept my favorites, and moved on. I also completed the Prime First Edition Optimus, because that mold is probably my favorite Transformer of all time. And I've also done it with animated
choice.
Voyager Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
And it's not because I have like a particular attachment to Optimus or anything. It's just that those 3 toys are amazing.
They are.
So I wanted to get every release that existed. So that's American, Japanese, variants, etc.
Yeah.
And I've finished up the animated one in the fall. And those last couple pieces I had to get the Elite Guard Optimus, and I had to get the Black Optimus, and those were pricey. But I did it.
What about Wingblade, dog?
I've had that one for a while. Nick sold it out.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of crossover with mold collecting. Like by character collecting by virtue, you typically end up with all the molds.
That's true.
Except when there's like a crazy thing, like they turn Warpath into Bludgeon, and you collect Warpath, so you don't get the Bludgeon mold or whatever. I'm just trying to make something up where it, you know what I'm saying, where it diverges. The mold just diverges by character so strongly that a character collector would never get that, but mold
Well, I think you had to get an
collector would.
MP44 Optimus for Starscream, right? The Starscream parts?
Yeah, but I mean, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, I
Oh,
collect
you also
Optimus
Optimus?
too.
No, that's sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not like Optimus. Collecting Optimus as a character collection is a trap, so you can't really. It's not a good idea. I started it a long time ago, and I'm like, I'm not actually getting everything for Optimus. I just have. There's so many that it looks like you have them all, even without having them all. Just look at Todd Ferguson. I mean, he's the master.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then he's selling it all, so it's like that collection's now moot.
Breaks my heart.
Serge got a couple pieces of that. I was hoping he'd be on here to talk about that, but he forgot the show was tonight.
Good thing I got nothing to do.
It's all right. Everybody's losing track of time with everything that's going on. So.
Right.
Time is
this is how
time anyway.
This is how I track my days or whatever. Like if I wasn't doing the show on Mondays, I'd have no idea what day it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know that's one thing that Anna kind of thinks that Christian and I are crazy because the fact that I really enjoy repaints of the molds, and Christian, you do as well, where you like to get because you've gotten all the classics Seekers as well, not all of them, but a fair amount of them. Too. That's another one, and I think it looks really neat to see all the different variants.
My butterfly collection. Yeah, I'll post a new picture of that after the show. But I don't have every release of that mold, even though it's probably my second or third favorite mold of Transformers ever. Right. But I don't need, the 10 different versions of Starscream. I just need the G1 and the G2 since that came out too. Sorry, Paul. I don't need, all 15 versions of Thundercracker, like the American, the Japanese, the Botcon, the Seeker Aces Japanese. There's so many different ones. I don't need all of them. I just need Thundercracker.
Just start over with the new Voyager one, and there won't be as many repaints,
don't
right?
You worry.
Well, because now we don't have to worry about Japan recolors.
That's true.
So,
But unfortunately, we also don't get to worry about con exclusive recolors, and those are some of the best ones.
And then Christian and Anna are making fun of me because I got, 2 hounds. I'm like, look how much different they look.
They're not.
They're completely different figures.
Hurts my soul, man.
This is a slightly different shade of green.
Clearance for half off to get the Teletran display. Otherwise, I don't care at all.
So I was holding up the Siege Hounds because the new Netflix one came out, and it is
one is muddy and one is dusty.
Right, almost exactly the same. It's not. A lot of the other ones they did a pretty good job on of varying up the molds and whatnot, Scrapface and Mirage and whatever. But it's like this hound that's. You're like, what in the heck is the difference? You literally probably could not tell the difference if they weren't next to each other. I mean,
if you were an our level of nerd, you'd have no idea.
There's so many of them per case.
Right.
It's 2 Sideswipes, 2 Hounds, the ones that nobody wants, 2 Mirages, a Chromie, and a Scrapface.
The show's
Why
not
is
out
it not multiple Scrapfaces? I don't understand.
Wait, what?
Yeah, how is Scrapface the short pack?
Yeah, how is Scrapface the one short packed?
Who knows? But maybe when the show comes out, maybe Hound and Sideswipe are super important, or they're like the bumblebees of the show or something.
Bet.
I'm not betting. I'm not. I have no idea what's going on in that show.
I will bet you that they don't matter at all, and Walmart's just banking on the name cachet from being 84 characters.
So I'll tell you the one thing I will bet you on is that Hotlink is going to be in every episode and have lines. And Skywarp, not even going to be in the goddamn show. And everyone's going to be like, oh, that's not Skywarp
I do think
anymore.
Hotlink's Target Master friends, Heartburn and Heatstroke or whatever they're called, I think that's their names, are going to be prominent. I think that's their names, Nick. I'm pretty sure.
Heartburn?
I'm really sure.
Heartburn and
I'm not
Heatstroke.
joking. I can go look in a second, but I think they'll be important, but Hotlink will be like, hi, I'm Hotlink, and then die.
I mean, Hotlink is in the trailer, right? He turns into a jet and blasts off at his jet thruster hit the camera. It looks
Mom
cool.
turns into a jet and blasts off.
Yeah, I know. What do you think she does on Mother's Day? We already went over this.
Good.
Well, the funny thing,
Sideswipe are gonna be nothing.
I was gonna say the funny thing is everyone, people are talking about trying to get Hotlink or whatever for Skywarp. That was the thing that we talked about before, because it sold out and it's hard to, the Skywarp is hard to get now, right? But Hotlink is hard to get now. Like, I've seen everyone posting that they're finding Megatrons in the store and they're finding, you know, all the other characters, but they can't find the Hotlink. So it'd be really funny if that one is the one that sells out too.
It was always gonna be. I mean, with the Skywarp mania, I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's the next one. Everyone that is going crazy for Skywarp needs the new black purple one anyways. And
it's just in. Seekers are a license to print money.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Right.
What?
I had something I was gonna say though, but I already forgot.
Sorry.
You talk about my amazing your mom joke. It just threw you completely off.
It was not very good, actually. I appreciate the effort, but... Oh, well, I mean, I made... Just today, I was looking for pictures of Masterpiece Skywarp in the USA. And guess what showed up in the Google results? Fucking Hotlink. Like, maybe you want this. I was like...
No, not at all.
This is where we're at right now. Like, I mean, if I had a Hotlink set, I wouldn't be selling that for less than 125 bones right now because someone gonna pay it.
Why are you like this?
Shout out to the dude in Japan on eBay who bought my set of Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp for $240 or something crazy like that.
God, that's crazy.
He's the real MVP.
Wow.
The funny thing is you could have bought the Masterpiece Seekers for $240, right? Like, I think they're $80 a piece, US. Like when they came out at Toys R Us, probably even less when they're on clearance.
I think I just sold Starscream, still sealed, for $125. And was it Thundercracker? One or the other. I forget which one. I think they were both $125, and they went pretty quick. So I don't remember what the original MSRP was, though. It's too long ago, and I'm old as dirt.
Starscream was $60.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
So and Skywarp was, I believe, $70, but it got deep discounted to like $30.
Yeah, that's what I bought
It's
mine
like
for.
a day
originally.
after they put it out on the store shelves. I just did a bunch of research on this, so
That's
pretty sure
nuts.
that's accurate. So completionism.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we have
actually buy
anything
things
else
like
that we?
this.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah. But who's laughing now? You got your wipes and all that.
My wet ones wipes, my antibacterial wipes here. Very important to have. But wait,
Actually, right now, those are
I
probably
have
valuable.
I have them in two different forms because they had robots on them, and I couldn't just buy the one canister. And then there was a sensitive skin one. I got that somewhere too. That was in a different box.
So my question
Who
with that
wants
is
some
because
pasta?
I really enjoy, seeing stuff from like the 80s or 90s of like that kind of packaged items. But like I would never want to collect it all from like now. But like, what do you do? I mean, do you just like throw all that stuff in boxes in pretty much?
I have an entire room. My childhood bedroom at my parents' house is full of boxes and boxes and boxes of robot-related stuff. It's all just in there, floor to ceiling. Probably about 3/4 of the room is full at this point. That's where it all lives. So someday there'll be a nice display of it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the line that I don't think I could ever, just start buying all that merchandise, because I know that you and Rick do, and I know Peter, I think collects some of that stuff as well, but it's in Claire and whatnot. It's just
I buy extras for Peter.
it's too much.
You and Peter.
That's right, you do.
So
We
If
love
I
you.
ever find stuff, I got to make sure I get multiples for both of you.
Thanks, buddy.
I think my limit, for the most part, is it has to be toys. It has to be like, in the end, like some sort of effigy of a character from the show. I'm sure there's like I have a few posters that I've purchased and a few books. Typically, like I'll buy those magazines from Japan that they put out every year that kind of just like in a really nice format. They show all the product that came out
Yeah.
all across the world every year, but it's
Those are cool.
again, it sticks to the toys. Like in general, there's a lot of documentation on the toys. All that tertiary shit is like the Wild West. It's up to people like Nick and Rick and Peter and, you know, there's other guys out there that do this. I just probably don't know them personally, but like they it's almost like they're historians documenting that stuff. And without documenting it, you lose the story. Like if it's just sitting in a bin and you didn't photograph it and it's not on some sort of archive or whatever, like it might as well not have existed until you pull it out and someone gets it. Like almost doesn't exist until it's a tree falling in the woods. Until someone's there to hear it, you know, it's not doesn't make a sound. So.
You're gonna tell me you don't need to have you don't need both of those, Paul?
I mean, really, minted package, Nick. Now they're worthless.
What you're really doing is you're like documenting and chronologizing a bunch of interns' early work at these companies that has been lost to time, and the files no longer exist. Only the printed samples. So like someday when they're looking at a time capsule, like I designed that Hostess box.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, though, is now, like, you see this, like, over the years where, like, you know, baseball cards were worth money because kids didn't care and whatever. They didn't keep them in good shape. And then toys now are kind of like that to where, you know, a lot of, you know, people just like, oh, whatever, they're toys. And so, you know, they're rare, right, because of it. So, you know, Nick might be the one that's actually onto something that at some point, like, that kind of stuff is what becomes valuable because no one thought that the Transformers razor blades were going to have any kind of value. And then when Nick has them AFA graded, you know, 20 years from now...
Nah, I would never grade anything. Ever.
Why not?
That's an entire topic for, I think, an entire different show. Grading is the devil.
Ooh. Does sound like a good one.
Yeah.
We probably should do it because, like, I actually think like grading for baseball cards or for collector cards in general and comic books, I think is actually somewhat important. Just because, like, there was so much of a market before of stuff where, like, it's kind of the Wild West or whatever, and it's like, oh, the guy at the card shop thinks that this is near mint or this is mint or whatever, and you know he might sell mine. You know, say, oh, that's near mint, I'll give you this. And then he turns around and puts in a shot for mint or whatever kind of thing. Whereas I think that if you actually have a grade on it, I actually think it kind of helps out, especially like when you're selling that stuff on eBay too, like baseball cards on eBay. But yeah, like the toys and things like that, I think it can be somewhat of a tough sell, I guess. But
I guess I could see the merits of grading, especially because it looks good. It looks good in a clear acrylic case.
Yes.
But once AFA started grading loose toys, they lost all credibility for me. It's like, what's the point?
Really? Because for me, it was when they were in bed with Wizard Magazine selling toys that were graded already, even though they hadn't come out yet. But that's a whole
You're
other
older
thing.
than I am.
I know,
I
I'm
don't
old.
remember
What do you
that.
want from me?
Has anyone else on this show broken a book out of a slab before?
Yes!
Man, it's the greatest feeling.
So good.
Liberate it. Oh, it feels so good.
Wow. I mean, I grade stuff every few years. I send in like a big swath of stuff. And I only grade my Starscream collection. But I do it mostly just to keep it, almost to like put it on the record.
Sure.
That it exists and that I have it. And I do it mostly to keep it safe, because moving shit around is what destroys your collection.
That makes sense to me.
And the grade, like, there's things I've sent in and they won't grade it because they say, oh, it's got double tape on it. Like, oh, well, guess what? Every single one from the Takara fucking factory had double tape, but I guess who cares? Because I just have it in a safe, nice looking thing, and it looks amazing. I don't really care about the grade. This sucks when you do get it back and you're drinking whiskey because you're like, woo, it's time to crack open the 20 items I just got graded, and like one of them is perfect but has no grade. You're like, oh, it's annoying, but like you got to remember you don't care. So That's not why you do
that version makes a lot of sense to me. But like grading something to speculate it or grading something to sell on later, I mean,
I would like to make this perfectly clear. I am not in the collecting game for the value. That's not why I'm here. It's not why I do this.
It's the hard road to hoe if you're going to be in the collecting game for value.
Yeah.
You'll never get it back. Almost never.
Hard road to hoe?
Yeah, man.
That was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Well, I don't know. That day that I sold that animated Blur for $100, I was like, hey, that was pretty
true.
good.
But how long did you sit on that? You sat on that for 7 years. It means you had to move it and store it and care for it. 7 years.
Transformers generally have a better return than most other lines.
That's true.
But
we're very lucky.
You could go and look at, Star Wars figures, and you could have bought every single Star Wars figure from 1995 to roughly 2002, and then taken a total bath when you sold them all at like 50 cents a piece because you can't give them away. So,
well, I think Transformers is such an anomaly.
Yeah, it's different
in the world of pop culture and media. Like, we existed so long without a movie with a big, magnet film, whereas Star Wars began with the film, and so did, Marvel started with the comics. So, there's this huge breadth of media before, and Transformers lore and media has always been really a mess all the way. It's even persisting to be a mess. Yeah. But now, it kind of came from a merchandise. It started with merchandise. But it didn't actually become mainstream thing since it came out until 2007. So we almost benefited from the lack of interest from the general populace for so long.
Yeah.
So you have more things that are rare, more things that are hard to find, and if you want to try to get it all, it's a lot more difficult. So yeah, the value kind of shoots up. You can't predict what's going to be a hit or not. I mean, when we were growing up, even though I remember seeing Transformers got expensive after my childhood, it never dawned on me these are the thing from the 80s. This is the most memorable, most valuable thing. There's nothing that screams 80s more than this. And we won. We defeated them all. We beat the Turtles. We beat He-Man. We beat, that was pretty much it. G.I. Joe even. G.I. Joe's dead. We literally came out on the top of the hill, and Prime's sitting there with his bloody Energon axe. Where's my face? Everyone else is under his foot, dead. We defeated the pop culture of the 80s. Now, the 90s are my story.
Prime.
Well, thank you for carrying the torch, 80s guys. I'm a 90s boy, and we don't have that, because Beast Wars didn't win over everybody else from the 90s.
Well,
Beast Wars is basically non-existent now, but I think it might have existed if G1 hadn't won so hard.
I might say I'd say Pokemon's the winner of the 90s.
Absolutely.
But you had so much more going on then. It was video games, the internet came out, and it's the universe diverged in such a way at that point.
It's just,
and also, there's not the same kind of value in that Pokemon stuff like there is with our stuff.
Yeah, those are just. Those are essentially magic cards. They have at least some utility.
So here's my question as far as completion is, because we all are varying levels of it. Were you always a completion? When you started out, was this kind of the road that you thought you would be at? When you first started, or has it always been this way, or is it something that you've just kind of we just got to this point over time because you've been in it, for so many years?
I have always been this way. I have been this way, like I said, since I was, 3 years old, and I needed to have everybody on the back of the checklist. But even, I used to collect Star Wars, Spider-Man comics, X-Men comics, Marvel Legends, carded G.I. Joes. I was doing only sealed stuff there. And and Masters of the Universe 2000X series. I was doing all of that. And every single one of those other things have been just cut out to just make room for more robots at this point. And so the Transformers have as you said, won. And so that is the only thing that I focus on now. I mean, I'm still reading comics casually. I'm still buying trade paperbacks and whatnot, but I'm not collecting other non-Transformers comics like I was. Everything else has gone by the wayside just to feed the Transformer beast. So,
if I had to answer that question, it reminds me of this like memory I have of a thought I had, and it was when I was like growing up. I was maybe 9 or 10 or something. Transformers is kind of old and done, but the checklists, like you brought those up earlier. I mean the checklists. This is a modern one. This is from those are the Constructicons. Like these what you need to make Devastator from Japan.
Got any extras?
I'll give you that one, but it's all rolled up.
I don't care.
I think the checklists were like very subliminal. I'm not sure if they were actually like if their intent was like, hey, we're going to like stroke the happy place of like whoever the most OCD kids are. They're it'll lead to more sales. I honestly don't think they were that nefarious or even had the sophistication to think that way. I think it's just like a happy accident. They made these cool ass checklists and they were great to look at, and they really showcased the other product really well, and that was emulated for years, going forward, and the Transformers did it really well. I figured, honestly, I just think they had a lot of money, and they're like, this stuff is cool, let's make it look cool, and that's all they did with that stuff. But I do remember, like, I didn't ever have it all as a kid. I had actually not very many Transformers, but I do remember thinking, like, man, I really wish I had, like, I wish I had 2 of every toy. Actually, I need 3. I need 1 to put in the box, just keep in the box, and then I had 1 as a robot and 1 as a car. And then I remember specifically being like, oh, but Blitzwing turns into 3 things. I need 4 of those. And I was a kid. And no one, like, there was no one told me to do this. It just happened. It just manifested out of pure thought. And then for the Constructicons, I'm like, ooh, I need 1 that makes Devastator, and I need 1 for all the guys. I need 1 for all the trucks. And in my head, they were like going to be displayed on a shelf somewhere. Like, I probably just like the checklist, which is why I'm saying it influenced me to think this way, whether it was intended to or not. Right. It just I'm the one of the small percentage of people that really struck a chord with. And now I look at people collecting and showing pictures online. This is not just me. This is everyone's. Everyone that talks about this stuff, they had that same sort of reaction to the brand. Mm-hmm. And I never ended up getting to that point in my that magic collection in my brain that I had as a child, and I never want to. Like, that's just insane. I like the way I'm doing it now. I like.
Well, yeah, there's guys now where they take the Masterpiece figures and superimpose them on top of backgrounds to make like the checklist, but for Masterpiece figures.
Those are
or whatever,
so cool.
Which I think
It's so pretty.
is neat. But the thing I think is I wonder why they don't have as many checklists anymore with like the kids' toys. I mean, I understand the internet and whatever, right? But it's like, okay, like, my kids collect what's the Beyblades or whatever, right? And it's like I can't even tell. Like, my kid tries to tell me, it's like I want, whatever X5 and Zaldron, whatever. And
I think a big
one
part
of our listeners.
I know it is. But you want like whatever, and it's like I almost feel like that it would be better for him if he actually had all the checklists and said, okay, well here we go. Here's the Beyblades that you still want in that series, because it's like I have a hard time trying to figure out like which ones that he's trying to actually get or collect or whatever himself.
I think a big part of why we don't get checklists anymore is because a lot of this stuff isn't on the shelf at the same time anymore. It's not like when we were kids, when we were real little, stuff would stay on the shelves until it sold out, and you'd be able to walk into your KB or your service merchandise or what have you. Yeah, you don't know what any of those are, do you, Christian? But you'd be able to walk in there and you'd find toys from 3-4 years ago, and you'd be able to go back and get older stuff, no problem. It's not like now where like toys are in for a season and then they're gone, or a wave and then it's gone and you never see it again, unless they do some kind of refresher thing. So I think that just the different nature of being able to buy all the product on that checklist, because it doesn't serve any purpose for them as a business to show you things you can't buy. So cross-sell is like the four guys in that wave, and that's it. So I think that's why it's so different now.
I also think the big companies aren't really in tune with that part of collecting, and they don't really know how to. Like, they could do a digital checklist. You know, like if they really had their stuff together, they could do that, and it could be an event. It could be something cool. They make it social, but they don't really
do that. Where's the benefit?
Of course, it could be part of the marketing budget, but it's not. Instead, they did a cyber key map, which is sort of like a checklist, by the way. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, it's a bit of a checklist.
I mean,
you say that, but then we're going through and buying figures you may not want just to get that darn piece of the map or the darn Teletron piece or the McAdam or whatever that you have to buy all the Cyberverse figures. And
yeah, but that's a toy.
Or the Build-A-Figures for,
I just pre-sold a McAdam yesterday.
Nice.
Awesome.
Wow. Can I circle back around to Lucas's question about, have I always been this way with completionism?
Yes.
So when I first discovered Transformers, through eBay and the internet when I was a kid, remember, because I'm the second generation of Transformers collectors, I was like, oh, I want them all. And then when I figured out how many there were, I was like, oh, that's just unrealistic. I'll get the ones I like. And that's generally how I operate, even to this day. But completing lines like the ones I have completed, I think I can look to the first generation of collectors who had been doing it for a while as an example. I think if I hadn't been online and hadn't seen people, getting everything, having complete G1 runs, I think if I hadn't learned about the Hartman collection at a critical point in my brain development, that completing things wouldn't even be part of it for me. It would be unthinkable. So that had occurred at that point in my life, learning about people who were completing lines or completing everything. I think that changed the trajectory of my collecting too. Because you're right, we don't have checklists. There's no external thing from the brand that would tell me that I need to get all the things.
There were definitely checklists during the Unicron trilogy.
There were.
They just weren't as cool as the 80s ones.
One thing is I feel like some of those guys and seeing some of their collection and whatnot has almost made me not feel the pressure of trying to get them all or do whatever. Because, I just look at them and I'm like, I'm not sure that I want to get to that point of having, that many toys or whatever myself. And if I'm not going to get to that point, I don't really need to chase that, I guess, if that makes sense. So it's like I'm good with the X amount that I have and, figuring out, what's extraneous and whatever, what I don't really care about. And it's actually kind of helped me because I can vicariously go through and see the amazing things that, various collectors have done and shown off on, Facebook and Instagram and whatever. And I can almost kind of enjoy, or like Rick's book or whatever that he's done, and enjoy toys that way, that I don't feel the need that I have to buy them all, if that makes sense.
See, now they've all had kind of the opposite effect on me. Rick's books and the Hartmans and Glenn Hallett. I mean, BotCon in general was a huge, huge influence on why I needed to buy everything. Knowing that those guys had done the thing, it's like, well, I want to do that. I want all those toys. I can do it. It's attainable. Someone else did it. I'm people. We can do this. So. Thanks,
I guess the difference with me is that, I really found out about this later. I wasn't going to BotCon as early as you guys were. And so at the point that, that they were at, I was like, I don't know. That seems like a lot. I look at what I got and what they got, and boy, that's a long race right there. So, but.
Well, yeah, we were there through the whole sense of discovery. There's so much knowledge now that you almost don't appreciate where it came from or how new some of it is about old stuff. There's new G1 discoveries happening every month, if not every week. And most of it is unreported. It's all stuff in Facebook groups for crusty people, but like we're finding out stuff we didn't know all the time. And at BotCon, you get the brand there, like tons of news would be released at BotCon, tons of like variants would be discovered at BotCon and like discussed and like that kind of stuff. There was excitement around it, and there still is, and it's just not all at BotCon anymore. And that's what made going. I can see what Nick's saying, where like it influenced him kind of in a different way, because it was like, what's going to happen this year? What are we going to find out this year? And you'd be like, your collecting habits would change potentially from the beginning of BotCon to the end of that particular weekend. So it was very, very influential.
Still remember my first one walking in. I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Which one?
BotCon 05. BotCon 05 was my first one.
Oh.
Wow, you beat me.
Yeah, I did.
It's awesome.
But I almost think
my
it's.
life, son.
I mean, I think it's really cool though too, with some of those discoveries of being like, I did it, I discovered it, and like coming up with something to where you post it online or whatever, and everyone's like, oh cool, like I had no idea that whatever existed. So, and I do enjoy that, Nick, with some of the posts that you made. You're like, oh hey look, I bought some shaving cream, so.
Well, the problem with the current situation of those discoveries and stuff is a lot of this new stuff isn't well documented because it's not an event. It's just a Facebook post that disappears, and hopefully you saw it.
Right.
Like, Facebook
Hopefully
is not
somebody picks it up for the wiki.
Yeah, Facebook is no sort of archival system by any means. Like you can't actually chronologically look at anything. So a lot of that stuff gets lost. Like I'm sure I've missed tons of stuff that matters to me that I don't know about. But there are things I see, and like it just goes into my brain filing cabinet, and hopefully I remember it correctly 10 years later when I have to make a purchase decision based on that one piece of information. We'll see. So there needs to be, there needs to be like some improved technology as far as like archiving this stuff and making it easily and readily available. Like, what's really hard to find? Barcodes for toys. Why is that hard? That should be as easy as anything in this day and age. It's not.
You want to come over and scan my collection?
Yeah.
I mean, I got a barcode scanner. You could do it.
I feel like that's again one of those things that you start and you're like, man, that is a lot of work. It's like kind of like the work that like Anthony did with, was it TFU.info?
Oh, what a beautiful website. It is such a useful tool. I use it almost every day.
It's just incredible, and you're like, man, you just like think of how much work that he put into that to make it, where it is, and the rest of us benefit from it.
Yeah, and he's still about 4 years behind on it at this point, I think, because he's been updating the older stuff. But like just the sheer amount of man hours that must have gone into it is just astounding.
So yeah,
Cool
I tip
stuff.
my hat to those people.
Yeah.
So with completionism overall, like, is there any part that we've kind of missed? Anything that you guys want to bring up that I'm not thinking of?
I mean, packaging variants.
Packaging variants, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had to draw the line there. It's like, I'm only doing mold variants and deco variants. I'm trying to not do the package variant thing, but then, of course, I did have to go and buy the Earthrise Astro Train, even though I have the CH Astro Train. I didn't open the Earthrise Astro Train because that would be redundant. I don't know.
Welcome to Nick's mind, where the
Why am I
rules
like
don't
this?
matter.
Where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. That's right.
So if you open something, Nick, are you keeping the packaging?
I have every single package that I have opened since 1995.
So here, if I open something and it's going to be loose and it's not, if it's like carded, like a blister, a piece of cardboard with a blister thing on it, I like do my best. I destroy it, so I will not be tempted to keep it.
That's
Fair.
the way.
I started doing that a long time ago, and it's been great. I do keep like Masterpiece boxes and a lot of third-party boxes.
Sure.
Right.
But it has to be good. Like a Voyager box, I'll throw that shit away. You know, like mainline stuff. Just has to.
The first two Beast Wars toys I bought when I got back into collecting, Transmetal Cheetor, Transmetal Tarantulas, and I tore those off the card. And so they're the only two I have that aren't like carefully razor cut around the blister. And now for like my carded stuff, I've thrown out all the blisters and I've just kept the card backs. But they're all like nice and pristine, and they could sit theoretically on some theoretical shelf that I might theoretically have someday. But I try to keep them nice in case I ever find a way to display them right. You know, and I keep all my boxes too. I don't keep the inserts for any of that stuff, but like the Japanese stuff, I keep the inserts for those boxes for some reason. I guess because it's generally a nicer presentation. They just, for whatever reason, do a better job on their packaging. I don't know. It's weird. I make up weird rules in my brain, and then I follow them for 20 years. What do you want me to tell you?
But yeah, no, the packaging variants, I mean, that's tough. Like, it's just, you're getting into just a lot of stuff. But then, at the same time, I mean, that's how you get your list up on Smacks, right?
Yeah, it is. So, like, you know, God bless Peter, he'll do it. I can't do it. I won't do it with all, like, the Transformers Prime has all the weird, oh, this has the new sticker, this one has the hub sticker. I don't care.
Yeah.
I got one. That's all I need. That's it.
Well, the thing is, after many years, you know, you may find out that there is a variant of the toy, and it depends on which sticker was on it to tell the difference. Those are the kind of they don't always happen.
It's never a hard and fast rule, and a lot of times those bleed over anyway. There's always some kind of overlap. Oh, a couple got packed into the other.
Sometimes
It's so rare that there's, you know, and if, you know, people try to draw this hard and fast line. It's like, oh, well, it was an 8-back He-Man, clearly because it has this paint job. It's like, you don't know. It's a toy.
Well, you don't know what's gonna. You can't predict what matters and what doesn't now. You can now when people are looking for one thing or the other. Like have that conversation with Morgan Coiler and tell me who comes out crying. It ain't gonna be him.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I know that, you know, when you talk to those guys, we've went through that before on just, you know, all the variants that you have for figures, and, you know, it's so.
Well, it's just who would have known that a box with an error on it, like a mistake, like a printing mistake, would be like the rarest version of Optimus Prime that you can get in a sealed box. You know, and it's because it was like back then they didn't have Photoshop, by the way, so all the stuff was done with like plates and photos and negatives. And so there's this one box of Optimus Prime. It's called the error box, and it's because
drone thing sticks up off the bottom.
The radar they like didn't measure it right, and the radar antenna is wrapped around the bottom, and it's coming up the top of the front, just off the. And you could hardly even notice it, but they just call it the error box.
Unpopular opinion. Who cares?
The people that, when someone's willing to pay $10,000 for it, I think you know who cares.
People on drugs, $10K? Jesus Christ, why? Why would you do that?
Because it's rare and it's the only one sealed in a AFA case.
Oh,
all the stuff you hate, Nick.
You made it worse.
All the stuff you hate. I love it all.
I got my mitten sealed box Optimus Prime signed by Peter Cullen. I don't care which version it is. I just know it's legit, and that's all I care about.
Oh, you let him sign it?
You're damn right I did.
You ruined it.
Yeah, I guess I did. What a shame. Take it to my grave.
You know what I would actually pay for a Starscream with a Chris Latta signature on it, but I don't think there are any.
Back then. Oh. God damn. You get Frank to sign one for you. He'll do it.
It's not quite the same.
But yeah, hopefully everyone has kind of seen some of the, you know, have been able to get a chance to peer into the madness, I guess, of some of our collecting and some of the rules, I guess, that we have. So hopefully it makes people feel better that, that there are some, crazy people out there too. So,
And the brain damaged.
Yeah, right. Brain damaged, whatever. So I don't know what it is. I guess, is it OCD? Is it like, I'm not really exactly sure, because I don't feel like I'm like this otherwise. Like, I don't feel like I have, but somehow it's collecting is. So. Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been diagnosed, but I'm sure I would be on that spectrum if there is one.
Yeah,
So.
I was going to say something like that. I'm sure I'm on there somewhere.
Don't really want to be.
It can definitely, to be all serious, like, collecting can be self-destructive. You have to really be self-aware and know some limits. And,
Right.
I'm sure we all struggle with that, both directions sometimes. So, just good to step back and look at it sometimes and make sure it's not a negative part in your life. So.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Tomorrow night, Christian, have we figured out what figure we're doing tomorrow night?
I think we're doing 2 of the C-Cons. One of them is C-Wing. Lucas and I are going to continue debating on whether or not it's Overbite or Tend to Kill. That's the second one.
Okay, yeah. So we've done 3 of the C-Cons so far, and at this point, we kind of want to wrap this thing up. So we, instead of doing one at a time, I think we're going to try and combine a couple of them so that we can, get done in a couple episodes instead of doing 3 or 4 or whatever. So we still need to do combined mode and the various individual ones. So join us tomorrow night on Microcasters. That's live on the TF Talk Facebook page. That'll be at 8:30 as well. 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Ouch My Wallet should be going on this week as well. That's going to be on YouTube Wednesday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And then, of course, Cut the Tape. So hopefully everyone enjoyed Rick's episode this last week. He did in Spanish. And then we also have TF Talk News on Sunday night. So that this last week was somewhat of a shorter episode, but just because the news always, sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. So, do you guys have any other final thoughts?
Do you think those last 2 C-Cons are going to go up for sale again this week?
Oh.
I do. Think on Friday. Go check on Friday.
Why Friday? They always go
That's
on
when
Fridays?
they do Fan First Friday, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing they're trying to do now.
But the last few went up when? Like on Fridays or random days?
Fridays.
They were?
Were they?
Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
But
I don't know when they did. I just remember they just randomly were up. I've been waiting. I checked that Hasbro Pulse page every day.
They've also been doing it randomly, but yeah, they made a concerted effort to do the first 4 on the first or second Fan First Friday. They're like, hey, it's all back in stock, and they had those 4 and Cliff Jumper and Wheeljack, and they're like, yeah, they're back in stock now.
Okay.
So
I'll take your word
check on Friday.
I'm going to check every day before Friday.
Check every day.
Because I'm a completionist.
There you go.
And I gotta complete my seafood dinner.
Well, see, and the C-Cons, like, that thing's almost somewhat frustrating for people that are trying to complete the set. Like, I know, I think Michael Swift on the show had mentioned that he started collecting it afterwards, and some other people as well. And so then it's people be snoozing.
You gotta make a plan.
As Paul said, but
plan.
Man, like, that's so frustrating if you after the fact or whatever, have to sit there. Because, I mean, there's 6 dudes. Like, it's, like, if you're paying aftermarket price, and it was already an expensive set. So, whew.
I mean, the flip side of that is you've got companies like Super 7 that do the pre-orders ahead of time for these kinds of figures, and they give you the window, and they say, all right, You got 6 weeks to order these things, and we're making them to order. People would still miss out. People still wouldn't be able to get the things they want in the window that was given to them. It's the nature of the beast with this stuff.
Look at Unicron.
I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, we just saw this is gonna be the story of our lives for the next 10 years.
Oh man, yeah. I'm really curious that Unicron, what that's gonna like when that comes out. You know, like. But the thing is like it's gonna be so freaking expensive to ship that I can't even imagine like because you're gonna like. Do you have to freight ship it? Or is there someone? Is FedEx? Could you send a FedEx?
What were the dimensions on that box? They said
26 by 26 by 26.
Okay, you're looking at least $200 across the country, from California to New Jersey. Probably $200 to ship
Ship
that.
stuff to New Jersey. That just cut it off and push it into the ocean.
Funny guy.
That's why you keep me around.
Yeah,
But
that's why.
But yeah,
I mean,
so that's
it's not going to be as bad as the barge.
No,
The barge
was like long and stupid, and
I had a barge delivered to me, and I had to chase the FedEx truck down the street because I like knew it was coming, but I had to go do something, and I got the notification like, "Oh, we tried to deliver." I was like, "Ah!" And I turned around and I found the one FedEx truck around my house, and I stopped. I was like, "Hey, I know this is weird, but I think you got a giant box for me." And they're like, "Are you that?" I'm like, "You got this Star Wars thing?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they turned around and brought it back to my house.
well, I'm sure the FedEx guy is like, thank God. Like, can you imagine if he had to lug that thing around for days? Like, it'd take up half his truck.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I was going out of town like the next day too, though. So like I really had to get it that day, and it was. But I mean, that thing was one dimension, being 4.5 feet long. Like that's way worse than a square.
Right.
So I think $200 might be high, but it is heavy, right?
It's like 20
Once you
pounds.
get over a certain amount of inches, the post office throws on an additional surcharge. It may actually be, no joke, $200 coast to coast.
I mean, I think you got to do UPS or FedEx. There's no way you'd send.
Yeah, no, I mean,
postal service.
if you have an account with them or whatever, I suppose you could do that.
Well, and then
UPS.
the other.
Huh?
I was going to say the other trouble is that, you know, a lot of people probably want a pristine box, right? So you had to put it inside of another
That box,
box,
put it in
right?
another box, and mail it to
In
myself.
order to do it.
And
so-
smash it with a hammer. Wait, no, not that one.
So
No.
at that point, it's like a refrigerator box that you're like, put this thing in.
I mean, at that point, you're talking about 200. I mean, I would charge someone $50 just to put it in another box. Like that's just rude.
Yeah.
So, man, I tell you what, but,
We'll
but
find
there
out in
you
a
go.
year.
And we have a whole year to hear people talk about it before it comes out.
God.
So, anyway, well, thank you to everyone in the chat. I know we had some good chatting going on. So, you know, Zaldrin, let's see, I'm trying to think. Rodimus, we got, man, some of the names. Man, Mastra. I probably
That sounds
butchered that. I apologize. God's
Sounds like
Burden.
a new one.
Yep. Got a few. I'm probably missing some, I'm sure, with the chat. But thank you to everyone. It was a lot of fun. It's a fun topic. Thank you to Nick for joining us this week. And hopefully we can have Nick on more as well. So,
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we do it again.
all right. Well, thanks, guys. And we will see you next week.
Hi, everybody.
Jazz hands.